Your hopes for a hot meal and friendly conversation are dashed with what you find in the marketplace. More specifically, you're disappointed with what you don't find. It's empty, filled only with mournful hush. Street vendors are closed. Windows are shuttered. Lamplighters have still passed through to fill the squares with warm pools of light. But everything feels muted under the weight of an oppressive sadness. You're looking around for someone, anyone, when a solitary figure in a white robe bustles out of the side of the street. The robe's hood is down so that you can see it is a young human woman with light blonde hair. Her robes bear sunburst motifs around the neck and collar, and a similar symbol made of gold hangs from her neck. This appears to be a sun cleric. Call out to the cleric or follow her down the empty street. Excuse me, love. Pardon me. The cleric jolts and turns, and you see a moment of fear as her hands reflexively snap to her holy symbol. She looks either way down the empty streets before breaking out into a wide smile as she approaches. Hello and welcome, she says, her voice high and bright. I just wanted to know, where are you going in such a hurry? I'm on my way to perform a young woman's last rites, she says, her kind smile fixed to her lips. Such a sad day. I don't suppose you're on the way to the Pickled Hen? I am, she says with a growing uncertainty. Did you know the deceased? No, nothing like that. I just bumped into Roy on the road, and he said to go to the Pickled Hen for lodging. Ah, of course, she says with a sigh. A truly good dwarf, Roy. The funeral will be starting soon, and I must be on my way. But I can show you the way, if you would like. That would be grand, thank you. She walks beside you in silence, occasionally consulting the sheet in her hand and reading it to herself. After a few moments of awkwardly accompanying the young cleric, she shows you to the inn, whose sign says, The Pickled Hen. The cleric absent-mindedly opens the door and steps into the tavern at the ground floor. Having clearly forgotten that you were there, she closes the door behind her. Go into the tavern, or look into the tavern through the window. Let's look through the window first. You find a window to peer into and see a packed room. It's almost impossible to guess how many people are inside, but it's at least 100. People seem to be speaking quietly to one another, though everyone seems to have a drink in their hand. You're a prowler? Asks a timid voice. You spin on a young barmaid who seems to be throwing away some scraps. She jumps more than you did as fear pinches her face. Oh, no, darling. I'm a traveller and adventurer. Then you should probably go in, she says with a small smile. The mayor will want a word with you after the service. And the folks of Langston are a nice bunch, even in the face of such grief. In life, Maybelline was the nicest person you'll ever meet. She'd want everyone welcome at her funeral. Come on in. You follow the barmaid into the tavern. The tavern is nearly full capacity, with the townspeople milling about speaking quietly to one another. The hum lacks the boisterous outbursts of laughter or shouts you normally associate with taverns this crowded, and the answer quickly becomes apparent. At one end of the common room, there is a closed casket on a table amidst what looks like hundreds of flower arrangements. A musician is strumming a lyre to a sad tune off in the corner. As you look around, an older man is arguing with a huge half-orc woman with an impressive collection of battle scars and a suit tailored in a typical nobleman's style. Seeing you, the man grimaces and sways over to you. He reeks of ale and spirits as his face sags in habitual sadness, but his eyes glitter with both tears and unexpected rage. I don't know you, he slurs, stabbing a blunt finger in the air between you. Is it you? Did you do this? What else have you done? A few heads nearby turn as he throws up his hands into a fighting stance and starts bobbing unsteadily. The half-orc crosses her arms and watches the both of you carefully. You're at a funeral in a strange town, so violence is not an option. You can try to persuade him to leave you alone, or intimidate him into backing down. Let's be nice, let's try and persuade him. You raise your hands and assure the man calmly that there has to be some kind of mistake. There's no need to fight, and certainly no need to ruin such a somber evening. Look, mate, I don't know what you're on about. I've only just got here. Look, let's not do this. It's a very somber time, and let's not get into it. Roll a persuasion check. Let's choose this dice. +2 to persuasion. Let's do it. 14 + 2 is a 16. The man calms and walks away, muttering about adventurers being up to no good. All these blooming adventurers coming and mugging about town. I swear I'm gonna do something one day. But he picks up a cup of wine from a tray and busies himself with drinking that, instead of fighting you. And with that, we gain our first inspiration. As your would-be attacker walks off, you see the half-orc who was speaking with him is staring at you. She approaches. The female half-orc in the tailored suit looks at you, eyes scanning up and down. I am Tanya Anathram, Mayor of Langston, she says with a nod, her common heavily accented with a guttural orcish twang. I may have use for you. Please stay for the funeral. I will speak with you after. You try to reply, but she has already walked away as the ceremony begins. Oh, all right. All right. A middle-aged human couple gets up and introduces themselves as Maybelline's parents. Though, from the murmurs of sympathy coming from the crowd, that seems well known. Thank you so much for coming out to say goodbye to our darling girl with us, the mother says. She was a ray of sunshine in our lives from the beginning, and we can see that she's touched the lives of so many of you as well. She was restlessly kind, generous, and patient. We will miss her dearly. The father of the deceased clears his throat, his eyes glassy. We are so very grateful to the people of Langston. You made our daughter's life a joy, and you're making her loss more bearable. But we will not be seeing you for some time. A murmur runs through the crowd, but he holds up his hands for a quiet. Every brick and blade of grass in this town reminds us of what we lost. Every time we see your kind faces, we will only see the torn and broken body of our treasured daughter. So we will leave and trust our capable mayor to bring the killer to justice. We will keep our peace at home, where we feel the closest to our daughter's memory. But we pray that you bring the killer to swift justice. As he speaks, heads in the crowd turn to the mayor, who just nods to the citizenry. When you turn your attention to the grieving parents, the father's cheeks are wet with tears, but his teeth are gritted in mute rage. Laying a gentle hand on her husband's arm, the deceased's mother speaks up. But we are not the only ones to suffer loss, she says in a cracking voice. We had Maybelline for her whole life. The love of her life was cheated out of the rest of it. Tomlin, darling, we'd love it if you could say a few words. The parents of the dead woman step aside and her fiancé takes their place at the podium. The man identified as Tomlin is dressed simply as he clutches a bunch of flowers tightly in his hand. He takes a moment looking out over the crowd, visibly holding back the tears. Thank you all so much for coming today, he says with a sigh. We're gathered here to remember the beautiful shining light that was my bride-to-be. Before growing to love her, I never thought that I was the marrying kind. Now it seems more like fate's choice. Here, does that mean the wolf is back on the prowl? Whispers one man near to you to his friend. Lock up your sisters and daughters. And wives, the friend replies with a snigger. Both are hushed by women who seem to be their wives. Both women sharing embarrassing glances. Others nearby in the crowd look over at the pair of would-be comedians with glares of mouthed insults. My darling wife-to-be was a simple soul. Her favourite flowers were daisies. She liked the colour of lavender. Anything made of silk was the height of sophistication. Despite Tomlin's grief, two men are still whispering lewdly and sniggering. The women seated beside the would-be comedians glare at them and exchange exasperated looks to one another. Oblivious to what's happening in front of you, Tomlin closes his eyes to collect himself with a sigh before continuing. To put it simply, Maybelline's death has torn a hole in my life that cannot be filled, but I will try. Work will help, I'm sure, and giving back to all that have done so much for me, especially in these dark times. I can only try and repay your kindness. I truly love you all, and you are all welcome at my home anytime. The audience applauds respectfully and murmurs condolences. Right away, however, something seems to be odd about the situation. You can either use an investigation check or an insight check to determine what's piquing your interest. Looking at my character sheet here, I have a +5 to investigation, so let's make an investigation check.